What's up, guys? We have an interview finally for the first time in a couple weeks or so, and it's one that's based out of the Kansas City area, but covers all over the Midwest, I guess you can say, for the Royals. And that's Alex Duvall, who runs the Royals Farm Report. Alex, we really do appreciate you coming on the podcast.
Yeah, no problem, man. Thanks for having me.
All right, so first let's just get started right into it. Why did you decide to make this Royals Farm Report account on Twitter?
So a couple years ago, I was writing for a website called Kings of Kaufman, and my editor at the time, his name is Patrick Brennan, actually started the website. And I think the next day he published an article for the first time, and the next day I came over and I started helping him out. And so, um, really, it was kind of there wasn't a single website whose sole purpose was coverage of the Royals minor league system. And so we felt like there was a niche that could be taken advantage of, I guess. And um, at the time, my old college roommate was pitching in the minor leagues for the Royals, and so it was something that I had kind of had a new interest in. And Patrick had started this account, and I was all in on board with him. And so from day two, really, we've kind of tag teamed this site, tag teamed Twitter account, and um, just trying to do our best to get Royals fans excited about minor league baseball and to help the prospects themselves get a little exposure before they get up to the big leagues.
All right, so you're talking about all this. When did you start this account up?
June of 2017.
All right. So the draft just happened. Let's just start off right there. The draft just happened, and we drafted Bobby Witt Jr., who I think I saw was the second best shortstop prospect next to A-Rod. What are your expectations for Bobby?
Yeah, so I think for the hope is that Bobby Witt Jr. is um, A Rod may be a lofty expectation, but you hope he is Fernando Tatis Jr. when he's 21, 20 years old. And you hope he can be Manny Machado esque, right? A big kid that can play shortstop. He moves well, hits a lot of home runs. The prayer is that he is a cornerstone, a perennial all star that you anchor into a lineup in the three hole. Um, for the next 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. And so that's obviously the hope, but I think like a more realistic expectation and what I think would be considered a success is something like Trevor Story, where Trevor Story is a great athlete at shortstop, plays nearly Gold Glove level defense, hits a lot of home runs, also strikes out a fair bit and hits more like 260, 270 instead of a 320, 330 hitter. So the sky is the limit for the kid. He does have, there was some worry about him having some swing and miss issues in high school, but he pretty much silenced a lot of those concerns this spring. Um, his team is actually headed to the Texas State Championship. They play on June 8th for that game. So yeah, the sky's the limit for that kid. His ceiling is, the perennial all star Bryce Harper's of the world. So that's the hope. But I think at the bare minimum, you're going to get a really good player at shortstop.
All right. So since he is coming out of high school, are you fine with the Royals taking the risk of a high school player who still has more to develop, or the more developed college player that you already know what they have and like pretty much what their full potential is?
Yeah, absolutely. And that was kind of the talk of the draft really was should the Royals take a guy like Andrew Vaughn, the first baseman out of Cal, who's a more polished hitter. He's almost definitely going to be a big leaguer at some point in his career because his floor is just so high. But he does play first base, and who knows really how valuable he'll be defensively. But he's going to hit. And with Bobby Witt Jr., it's kind of the other way around, where his athleticism and his defense is going to be fine. But it's just the off chance that he doesn't hit like expected, and then so like you said, that was the gamble, right? And I was listening to an interview on 810 this morning with Lonnie Goldberg, who runs the draft for Kansas City, and he basically implied that they had a couple other guys on their board, and that they did their due diligence on some other guys, but there was never really talk of not drafting Bobby Witt Jr. They loved the kid that much. They liked the bat that much, the pedigree, the defense, the athleticism. So The Royals were in love with that kid. They've been following his games for the last 3 seasons. So, um,
Yeah, I did
I
see
don't
that.
think,
I don't know who it was, Dayton or Lonnie, that watched every single inning he played. I think it was since he was 14.
yeah, well, I don't know about, I think it was just they've watched every single season or every single inning, I'm sorry, this season. And then they've seen him play for the last like 4 or 5 years. So,
Yeah.
um, I don't think there was ever talk of drafting anybody else. I think they like the bat that much, which does quiet some of the concerns about, like you were talking about taking a college kid. The upside with Bobby Witt Jr. is just so immensely high that they never really considered it.
So, since we're talking about how he's a shortstop, Mondesi's only 23, I want to say.
Yes.
And Bobby Witt Jr. is 18 or 19. I don't
He'll be
know.
19 in a week or two.
All right. So, you give Bobby 2, 3 years in the minors. Probably won't even last that long in the minors for how high he was drafted. Who knows? You have that scenario. Where where's this lineup gonna go when you throw Bobby Witt Jr. in?
Well, that's the nice thing about baseball, right? Is you can put these guys anywhere on the field, and they still get to hit. And Bobby Witt Jr. is athletic enough that he could easily, I think, play third base. I think there's also an off chance that Adalberto Mondesi could play center field. Um, Adalberto Mondesi has never played a professional inning in the outfield. I just think he's athletic enough that if the Royals wanted him to, that he could potentially move there. But we've seen, big shortstops like this move to third base all the time. Alex Rodriguez, Manny Machado, Nolan Arenado, Mike Moustakas, right? These kids move to third base all the time. And I don't think that's anything that Bobby Witt Jr. can't handle. Um, so then essentially your question kind of moves to, okay, well, Hunter Dozier. And to that, I would say it's basically the same conversation, right? Somebody can move to first base, somebody can move to the outfield. In baseball, you get the bats first. You put the 9 best hitters out there to a reasonable extent, and then you worry about defense later. So, um, there are some concerns about, well, we drafted 2 shortstops with our first 2 picks, and we already have Mondesi. Well, those guys, somebody's going to move. Like, it's not a problem at all. It's a good position to be in, and it's not something that the Royals or Royals fans should spend even 1 second worrying about.
All right. So I don't know, like if you really seen all the draft picks the Royals got, but other than Bobby Witt Jr., what draft pick stands out the most to you, and who has the most talent or potential, I guess you can say, in the draft picks only?
Yeah, so I'm actually looking at a list of all 41 of the kids they drafted, and I think, I think the first guy that would be good to talk about is Brady McConnell. Brady McConnell was the Royals' second pick at number 44 overall. He's a shortstop out of the University of Florida. He actually, in terms of tools, now he's not the same player by any means, but just in terms of his tools, reminds me a lot of Bobby Witt Jr. and that he's actually bigger than Bobby Witt Jr. is, but he can still fly. He plays shortstop. Um, I think Brady McConnell is almost a lock to move off the shortstop position. I think he ends up playing second, third, or maybe even left field. Um, but he's really toolsy, and he's a kid. We had a guy, and he's a guy that writes for us. His name is Marcus. Marcus wrote the other day about the fact that Brady McConnell pick, it was genius by the Royals, because if you'll remember from the 2018 draft, the University of Florida, had a third baseman by the name of Jonathan India. Jonathan India was a highly touted high school recruit. Struggled for a little bit his first 2 years at Florida, but then as a junior, he absolutely raked and was the number 5 overall pick. So in Brady McConnell, I think what the Royals are looking at there is, well, this kid's a draft eligible sophomore. He's only been at Florida for 2 years. If he goes back to Florida and hits like we think he can hit, he's a top 10 pick in the 2020 draft. And we don't want him to go back to the 2020 draft. We want him to come play for us. So in theory, then the Royals are gambling that they think Brady McConnell could potentially reach that ceiling of a top 10 pick in next year's draft. So he's a guy that I'm really excited to watch get into the action and get into professional baseball. There's another kid. He's a first baseman out of Old Dominion. So that doesn't sound like anything that would be terribly exciting. His name is Vinny Pasquantino. Um, He hit 15 home runs in 2019, which was a career high. So he obviously found something in the power department that maybe he didn't have before. He lowered his strikeout percentage by 10%. He actually walked in 2019 more than he struck out, so his plate discipline improved. And that profile, again, I've never seen a Vinny Pasquantino at bat live, only ever videos. But the profile and that kind of quick rising first baseman out of a small college kind of reminds you of Ryan O'Hearn. Ryan O'Hearn didn't hit for a ton of power before he got to college, and he just kind of, went through it a little bit for his first couple of years. But then as a junior, Ryan O'Hearn hit for a little more power. The plate discipline improves. I'm sorry, and all of a sudden Ryan O'Hearn looks like maybe a legitimate prospect. And so I think that this Vinny Pasquantino kid, who knows what he'll ever be, but the peripherals start to improve, and maybe you get a first baseman there. I know the Royals were a little concerned about their first base depth in the minor league system. So there's your first base depth. College hitting first baseman that has seemed to improve this year. So he's another kid. And maybe the third guy is a fielder out of Illinois State. His name is John Rave. 6-foot lefty, can absolutely flash a little power this year. He's a 5th-round pick. He's a guy I'll be keeping my eye on just as a toolsy outfielder. And if he improves his bat at all, then maybe you have something there.
All right, so with the draft being done and everything, now we just look at who's on the Royals roster in the minor leagues in the farm system. Who has the most potential in that department of being the best player out of any pitchers, position players, any of them?
If you want to talk strictly potential, so strictly ceiling and who has the ability to be the best player, I think it's close between the catcher MJ Melendez and a pitcher in Jackson Kowar. Jackson Kowar is a 6'6" righty that his fastball has reached upwards of 99 miles an hour this year.
Wasn't he
His
teammates
changeup,
with Brady in Florida?
yeah, he was. He was teammates with Brady Singer and Brady McConnell at Florida. Jackson Kowar throws 95, 96, can touch 99. His changeup is absolutely ridiculous. Fangraphs actually gives him a 60 grade future value on his changeup, which is a really, really good offering. And his curveball is coming around. His curveball actually, it has good shape. Like he throws the pitch well ish. It's just hardly ever for a strike, and it's hardly ever a good offering. But I think, and I've mentioned this on other podcasts, I think that what excites me the most about Jackson Kowar is he's very self-aware. Like he knows that if he improves his curveball, that he's a really, 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 really top of the line prospect, and so he takes that to heart and he works at it, which is good. You'll have some prospects who, if like some guys like Jackson Kowar, man, I can throw 99. My changeup's filthy. I don't need to work on anything else. Like this will be good enough. And it's easy to get caught into that. And Jackson Kowar doesn't appear to be that way at all. He takes his weaknesses to heart. He knows his strengths and can play off them, but he knows what he needs to work on. He is working on it, and his curveball has made really good strides this year. So if he ever figures out the curveball, I think he's potentially a number one, kind of like James Shields was for Kansas City. Um, whereas MJ Melendez last year in the South Atlantic League set a record in that league for home runs by a teenage catcher with 19. He has got elite raw power, hits the crap out of baseballs. He's also striking out in nearly 40% of his plate appearances. So that's obviously the problem, right? You have to make contact before the power matters.
Yeah.
But defensively, Melendez is a wizard. He is really, really good behind the plate. He's throwing out over 50% of stealers this year. He's picked 7 or 8 guys off base. So defensively, he is elite, and the power is elite. But he's got to figure out, the strikeouts and making more contact thing. But in theory, then, if he ever does, he's a really, really, really good prospect in this system.
Isn't both Jackson and MJ in the high A team?
Yeah, they are. They're both in Wilmington, which is the Royals High A affiliate down in the Carolina League. So, yeah, I don't think MJ Melendez, there's really, I don't think, any way he sees Double A this year unless he just, absolutely hammers a corner somewhere and gets, significantly better. Um, but I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that either. I think Jackson Coar's probably in Double A sometime after the All Star break, maybe beginning of, before the beginning of August. But I think we could see Coar in the big leagues by 2021, and I don't think it's unreasonable to think Melendez couldn't be there right after him in 2022.
All right. I just want to brief on this. Brady Singer, our first pick last year, already called up to Double A. He had a, I'm pretty sure I read he had a really good start in High A.
Yeah,
What,
he was dominating the Carolina League.
where do you see him
Yeah,
stacking up
so
against, let's say, Jackson Coar?
Singer's more polished. Like I think he'll move through the minor leagues quicker, but I say only, his fastball doesn't get up to 99 like Coar's can. His breaking ball is a good pitch and his changeup is good enough, but he doesn't have like anything that would stand out to you. If you just saw Brady Singer throwing in a bullpen next to Jackson Coar and said, "Hey, Josh, you can have either of those pitchers. Which one do you want?" You'd probably take Jackson Coar, every time. But then Brady Singer gets on a mound and he competes his butt off. He's a bulldog. He will not, he refuses to fail, and so it's kind of he wills himself. Remember James Shields, that competitive nature and the fire he had on the mound. It reminds you of that, really. So that is the thing with Singer is he's a great pitcher, but it's hard to peg a guy whose stuff plays out as average or maybe a tick above average. And so it's really hard to peg, and it's really hard to kind of predict what he'll be. And so I think he's legitimately has the ability to be a number two starting pitcher. I think he's more likely a number three, but I think he's definitely a number three or a four, right? So again, you talk about ceiling versus floor. Jackson Coar has the highest ceiling, but there's also a possibility that he's a reliever. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
I think Brady Singer is a surefire starter. I just don't know how good of a starter he will be in the big leagues.
All right. So, okay, out of all the prospects, who is the closest to getting the call to go up to the major leagues?
Good question. You could argue that it's Bubba Starling. I don't really know if that carries any weight. Um, Eric Mejia, um, in terms of guys who haven't already debuted, is close. He can play a lot of positions defensively. He's hitting the ball really well in Omaha. So I guess in theory he's close. Josh Stama has been pretty good in that opener role in Omaha. So, I don't really know, especially if you just talk about guys who have never made their big league debut. The Royals don't have a ton of guys in Omaha that are playing really really well. The catcher Nick Denny is hitting pretty well, but there's questions about his defense behind home plate. Kelvin Gutierrez has already made his big league debut. Cuthbert's back, so um, I would say probably Bubba Starling or Eric Mejia, but I don't necessarily know if we see them anytime soon either.
All right. And whenever you say Royals prospects, one of the first names that come to my mind is Khalil Lee. Where do you see his career taking or going, I should say?
Yeah, Khalil Lee's career is going to go as far as Khalil Lee will allow it. That kid has more talent than most anybody in the Royal system, and I get you could make the argument he has more talent than anybody in the system. Um, there's some approach stuff he needs to work on in terms of at bat approach and the way he approaches the game in general. But the kid is so wildly gifted that I think he's still 20. Actually, did he turn 21 yet? He's either 20 or 21, right? And looking back at myself at 20 or 21, there's no way like I would have been any better in terms of maturity on
He's
or off the
20.
field. He's
Birthday's in
still
20
20.
days.
Okay, so he hasn't even turned 21 yet. Like the kid can't even legally drink. So um, to have too many questions about his maturity issues, I guess, would be, or not even maturity, just in terms of his approach to the game and the work ethic and all the stuff that comes with being a professional baseball player. Um, I think is way too premature because he's not even 21 yet. So um, I'm willing to give Khalil Lee some slack on that. But I think once he kicks it into drive and once he gets it going and realizes how good he can be, again, you talk about sky's the limit. That kid, he could legitimately be a 2020 guy in the big leagues. He's already got 23 stolen bases in Double A. He's only played 53 games. He's got 3 home runs, but his raw power is really, really good. He doesn't get to it in games all the time because he's working on cutting back on his approach, not striking out 30% of his plate appearances, hitting the ball on the ground, hitting the ball for average, which is fine. I don't want to see that go long term, but he needed to refine his contact skills, and so I'm okay with that. But his raw power, like I've seen him hit baseballs 400 feet, um, and so if he ever starts accessing that in games better, he's a legitimate 2020 guy, potentially in the big leagues.
All right. And then another name that comes to mind is Soli Matit. I don't know how. I really don't know how to pronounce his last.
Sully Matias.
Yeah, Matias. I got his autograph in spring training. I just didn't know how to pronounce his first name, pretty much.
Sully.
Yeah. All right. So he did get some playing action in spring training with the Royals. Where do you see him in the upcoming years?
Yeah, man, that's tough.
Because I'm just looking at it with like the MLB ranking, like the Royals top 30 prospects. He ranks number 1 in arm and power for like the best tools, and that's something you really want. With doesn't he, I would say he plays outfield, right? Right field.
Yeah, right field.
Yeah, that's what I thought, and that's what you really want to see with a right fielder.
Yeah. So here's the thing with Sully is, he's right now he's hitting 145 and he's striking out in 45% of his plate appearances. I have no idea what happened to him. Last year, and I say this kidding, and I am kidding, he's already got 25 hits. Last year, he hit 31 home runs, and man, he'd be lucky to get to 31 hits this year. He just, like, he looks defeated at the plate. He looks like he knows he's struggling mightily. And I feel bad for the kid because it looks like he just has no clue what the pitcher's going to throw ever. He went on a little 3-game tear earlier in the year where he hit 4 home runs in 3 games, and those were the only 4 home runs he's hit all year. Since May, he's struck out in over 50% of his plate appearances, and he just looks lost. And I have no idea what to do with that. Like, as an evaluator, I don't know what to make of that because last year we saw him, we saw him hit. He hit 230. He hit 31 home runs. And now all of a sudden he can't even make contact most of the time. So I honestly, like, it sucks. It sounds like a cop-out, but I don't know what to make of that because I think he's better than that. I think he's more talented than that. But without knowing exactly what his problems are, I don't know if I can honestly say that I see it getting better anytime soon because there's a chance that it doesn't. And guys like this show up every now and then, right? They hit an absurd amount of home runs. They also strike out an absurd amount of time, and then they go away because the strikeouts never get fixed. But I don't think Sully Matias, he just doesn't seem like the type of athlete that would flame out this quickly. I think he'll be fine. When I say fine, I think he'll be okay. Like, in terms of moving, like, I don't think he'll flame out an A-ball. But man, like, I don't know what the adjustment is either, because if he doesn't make an adjustment, he will never get to Double A. But I just don't know what that adjustment is for him.
All right, and another player that is struggling, I would say, is Nick Pratto. I'm looking at this. He's hitting 166 with 1 home run, 31 hits, and 187 at bats. I don't really know what to say, but I mean, the Royals' first pick 2 years ago, still an A-ball. When do you expect him to be getting called up?
Yeah, I mean, and so here's the thing, like, and I don't want to sound like I'm copping out here, but here, like, if you go to stats in the Carolina League, and every qualified hitter in that league and sort them by batting average, here are the three worst batting averages in the league: 166, 163, 145. Those batting averages belong to Nick Prado, MJ Melendez, and Sully Matias. Like, I don't even know what to tell you. Like, this seems organizational. Like, if one of those guys was struggling really bad, you could say, okay, he's just not good enough. If two of those guys were struggling really bad, maybe neither of them are good enough. But when all three of them, the three of the top prospects in the entire system, suck that bad for that extended period of a time together, like, you can't help but think that this isn't their fault entirely. Like, so then the question is, who do you look at next? Is it the hitting coach in Wilmington? Maybe. Um, Terry Bradshaw, the Royals hitting coach, used to be the minor league hitting coordinator for the organization. Did he have that big of an impact where these three go from good hitters to bad hitters this quickly? Is it just the level? Are they too young to be in the Carolina League? Um, of the, what is this, eight worst batting averages in the league, four of the kids are 20 years old. Um, I don't know. Like, I don't know what to tell you. I thought they were good enough last year. Like, I didn't think the Royals were rushing them at all. When they all started the year in Wilmington, I was like, yep, sounds about right. There they go. Let's see how they do. And man, it's been brutal watching them go at it. So, uh, all three of them have shown signs of life. Again, Matias had that 4 home run stretch. Melendez has had a pretty good stretch here the last 10 games. Prado had a good stretch of like 5-6 games. But they can't put anything together. So I honestly don't know what to tell you there. It's something that I've really never seen in terms of three of your top prospects all struggling this badly all at once. You just pray that they get it figured out, because if none of them get it figured out, and if all three of these kids were to flame out, in theory, right? Let's just say all three of them never reach the big leagues. There's going to be some serious, you know, I don't know what the proper word is, but there's going to be
Changes.
questions to be answered in the front office.
All right, and just kind of wrapping this up, two or three more questions. Who's the diamond in the rough?
I think the best answer for that question right now is a kid named Gabriel Cancel. He is the natural second baseman, meaning so the Naturals are the Royals Double A team. Gabriel Cancel is tied for third in the Texas League in home runs with 12. Or I'm sorry, he's tied for fifth in the Texas League in home runs with 12. There's only one kid even close to his age with more, and that's Jazz Chisholm, the Diamondbacks. He's 21 years old. Gabe Cancel is 22. The other players with more home runs are 25, 23, and 24, right? So for his age, that's even a bit more impressive. He is tied for fifth in doubles, also in Double A. I'm sorry, I was looking at all of Double A leagues. That's not just the Texas League. So in all Double A, he's tied for fifth in home runs and tied for fifth in doubles, and nobody has more of both. So the people with more doubles, they have 5 home runs, 4 home runs, 3 home runs, and 7. Cancel has 12. Among people with more home runs, they have 13 or 3 doubles, 13 doubles, 12, and 7. He's got 17. So the kid's been really good, and I think he's good enough defensively where he can play a really good third base or just not kill you at second base. I think the big thing with second basemen who don't play good defense is that they don't turn double plays. Cancel's feet are really good. Like, he's really quick turning double plays. He just doesn't have a ton of range at second, and so he doesn't sound like somebody who's going to play second base for the Royals, but I wouldn't be surprised if they'd let him play third, and I think he could play a really good third base. So, yeah, Gabe Cancel is kind of my diamond in the rough, and we had him ranked, I think, 9th on our prospect list this spring. And I know MLB Pipeline has left him off. I still don't understand why MLB Pipeline has continued to leave Cancel off their list, but we had him number 9 overall, so we really like him. And in terms of the general population, I think he's a diamond in the rough, but you won't see any knock against him over with us.
All right, and wrapping it up, when do you see all these prospects coming together and winning a title for Kansas City? Or
2026.
okay, and when do you see them making the playoffs?
2023.
All right, so you're saying there's a good 3-year span right there?
uh, 2023 may be generous. I think 2024, 2025 probably more likely. Um, the way baseball's set up is you get rewarded for losing, and so the Royals are going to do a lot of that. And if they pick up, so like last year they got Brady Singer in the first round. This year they got Bobby Witt Jr. Next year's 2020 draft class is absolutely loaded at the very top, and the Royals seem very likely to have another top pick. And
Top
so you're
five
going to
pick.
get another generational ish talent there. Um, and then it looks like they've signed a really good international player. His name is Eric Pena. Um, if they suck again in 2020, the 2021 draft class is really good. So, putting these guys together, if they by 2021 can have a really good farm system getting together again, I don't see any reason they can't make the playoffs again by 2024. Um, and so if you think about it, kind of the way they did this the first time, right, was a lot of prep kids, and this time they're going with a lot of college kids. Um, but again, those kids all made their debut in 2011. By 2014, they were in the playoffs, and 15 they won the World Series. So I think you're kind of looking at a similar timeline, just 10 years removed, right? So we start seeing the next wave in 2021, give them a couple of years to get everything together, and then by 2024, if this team's not making playoff runs or at least getting really close, then I don't know if this front office will still be here. I think they will. Like, I think that's going to happen. But if it doesn't, then that would be, I think, considered a pretty big failure. Um, with that being said, I think this team will get it turned around. I really like some of the guys that got on the front. I really like the way they've been drafting to an extent. I really, really, really believe that by 2024, this team will be back in the playoffs.
Well, I mean, in our previous episodes, me, Jackson, John, and Sam have all been saying 2022, 2021, but this dude knows what he's talking about, so I'll take him more serious than what we say.
Well,
Alex,
and,
we
and here's
oh
like, I don't think, just real quick, I don't think 2021 is, that crazy. And I think the Royals have led a lot of fans on to believe that that's possible. But if you look at this pitching staff, and if you kind of go to the roster at AAA and at AA, outside of Brady Singer, there's not really any starting pitching that you're really excited about. So, I don't disagree with you in terms of the position players being ready. I think the position players are close to being ready. Maybe you could have a playoff offense in 2020, but you have to pitch. And unless the Royals sign 15 free agents or maybe 12 free agents to pitch, I don't know where that pitching comes from. And so you have to wait on Brady Singer, Kowar, Lynch, Bubich, all those guys to get up from A ball to the big leagues, go through their rookie slump, and then be playoff ready, which it's going to take a couple years, right? Like when those prospects debuted in 2011, they didn't even go 500 until 2013. Like, it's going to take a couple years for these guys to get going. Just because they're here in 2021 doesn't mean they'll be in the playoffs in 2021.
all right. Well, Alex, we appreciate you coming on the podcast. If you would like to shout, I know you have a podcast. If you'd like to talk about that real quick, you can.
Yeah, real quick, we'll kind of plug the site, I guess. RoyalsFarmReport.com. That's where we're at. You can follow us on Twitter at Royals Farm. We do have a podcast. It's available on iTunes. It's on the excuse me. It's on the Royals Review SB Nation podcast. We actually kind of joined forces with them recently. So, again, on iTunes, if you go to Royals Review, we're on their channel. Excuse me, on the SB Nation podcast. But again, that's RoyalsFarmReport.com.
All right, we really appreciate you coming on the podcast. Make sure to leave a like on this video, guys. And if you're new, subscribe and comment down below what you think of the Royals in the upcoming years. Alex, once again, thank you for coming on. We'll see you guys Tuesday or Saturday, whatever day we do the podcast. Have a good one, guys.